Welcome to From Head to Heart and Home, a channel created by women, inspiring women to take intentional action to create the life you want. With your host, Shanda Soretti, certified transformational coach, and myself, Carla Center, relationship coach and subconscious healer. So today is the first day of our second year of content. We're super excited that you are listening in with us and that you take the time to interact and just share all the beauty that comes from this conversation. So today we wanted to talk about something super exciting and that can make such an impact on people's lives. Creating a space for healing and being ready for healing. So I'm going to let Shanda start this conversation out.
All right. So, yes, welcome. We are in our second year of creating beautiful content for this channel. So, it's very exciting to be here. And Carla, again, just so thrilled to be doing this with you. So, today is about creating space for what's ready to be healed, right? And I mean, I know that both of us have personal experience with this, which is why we're going to talk about this today. Because personally, I've been creating space every single morning for healing work to take place for years now, but really specifically working with a specific practice for, I think it's been like 3 months, maybe even 4 months now. And it's funny because the things come up to the surface, right? When we create a space for healing to unfold, what happens is we start to notice these parts, these uncomfortable parts that start coming up. And we can look at it one of two ways, right? We can see it from the lens of, uh-oh, what's happening? Something's going wrong. I have all these things coming up. Or we can look at it like, oh, okay, these things are ready to be healed now, ready to be worked on. And that's why they're coming up. So it even happened to me last week or the week before. And I was starting to notice just like a flood of certain thoughts and certain ideas coming in on a regular basis when I would sit down for my morning practice. And I was like, what's going on? And I was starting to overthink it. And then I said to myself, wait a second. This is an opportunity to heal these things that are coming up even further and heal on a deeper level. So to understand not to shy away from these things, right? To really have that lens of welcoming them in as opposed to trying to shut them out. And so for you, this doesn't have to be a a morning practice, but creating a daily practice, meaning like space every day to allow whatever it is that's there to kind of surface is super beneficial when you're doing any type of healing work.
Right, exactly. And I have been doing something, by the way, Shanda and I are doing different things, but I've been doing it for 2 months. So, and the reason I bring that up is because right, it's not what exactly the practice is. There are so many different practices that you can have. And mine actually happens a little differently than Shanda's. Now my brain is not spinning first thing in the morning. And I do mine in the morning. Well, at least part of it. And the thing is that it has allowed me the space to see my patterns, to have them come up. And like Shanda said, it's uncomfortable. And sometimes I can react and then I can go, do I look at this? Is this reaction about really the person or the situation, or is it about me and how I see it? And that's the beauty of making space for it, because then you're like, okay, I'm going to be conscious of it. I'm not going to make things right or wrong, like we talk about often. I'm going to be compassionate and loving towards myself and the other person so that I can really just see what this means to me.
Hmm.
Because it's not really about the other person, because as we've said many times, and as Shanda said, even with your family, it's not about changing them, it's about really about yourself. And so as you make this space, you see things and it creates better relationships. It creates better connections because you're healing your stuff that is having you have these pattern after pattern after pattern, and then it keeps you in that same spot you've been in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's interesting because what you were saying about are like the patterns, like being able to see patterns, right? And it is uncomfortable, but it's about like what we're seeing I'm going to say we're being triggered through other people or by other people. But what's fascinating, Carla just touched on this, is that it's those triggers are insights and almost like windows into your life. Okay. So it's the opportunity, and it's not always easy. Trust you me, we're going through it right now, but it's an opportunity to ask yourself questions, important questions like, how do I want to proceed moving forward with this? Who do I want to be in this relationship, whether it's with you or with another person? And what does that look like? Right? It's like we need to be willing to feel the discomfort, because that is usually the problem, is that we feel like we want to fix things, right? That's what was coming up for me a couple weeks ago, is this deep desire to fix things. And when we have a desire to fix things, it means that we think, because this is what we're taught growing up, if we apologize or say sorry, then everything will be okay. But the real truth is that the lesson in the learning is in feeling the discomfort and knowing that we can't fix it. It's already happened. And a lot of times there's not even really, I'm going to say there's not even like really something to fix. It's more so healing that needs to take place for ourselves internally. So, for example, if you're like having this deep seated urge to apologize to somebody, like that's my specific example, it's less of I need to go say something to so and so, and it's more where can I offer that forgiveness and that apology to myself, because that is the deep healing that needs to be unfolded and take place.
Right. Right. And as you see these little things, you'll like, let's talk about the apologizing, like Shanna was talking about. I would do that, and I would apologize for things that had nothing to do with me, right? Because that was part of how I was conditioned, right? And
Mm,
so what that was also tied to is I have a trigger about people apologizing and then making excuses, right? So I was insincerely apologizing, not purposely, not consciously, but it was me doing it. Why? Because I was conditioned to always be sorry for something that had nothing to, I had no control over. It was nothing to do with me. So that's why I was getting so mad at anybody that apologized to me and they had excuses, right? Because I was basically doing the same thing, even though they're a little different, but they're the same thing. I wasn't, I was taking accountability for stuff that wasn't mine and angry for them to not taking accountability for stuff that was theirs. And and so it gave me this like, okay, here's the pattern for me. And they do trigger me. And I'd be like, ooh, I'm so mad. I'm so mad. You wouldn't even, some people wouldn't have recognized me when I'd be in my car just like talking it out with myself. And then I realized the pattern. Okay, here's the pattern. And why is this triggering me so much?
mm,
It's not only about them not taking accountability, it's me taking accountability when I shouldn't, and most likely not taking accountability when I should. So I'm
mm.
always on the lookout for that, right? And this is not about me being right or wrong, but really healing and being open to seeing what's going on instead of just having these very rigid thinking patterns about things.
Right. Yeah. And realizing your patterns is like really the first step, right? It's that awareness. It's bringing that into your awareness and being like, all right, I don't like what's unfolding here. Let's heal this. Let's work on this. So I think it's like learning to identify what is the thought, what is the underlying thought that is generating this feeling of, like you were saying, feeling like maybe resentful or feeling whatever it is, right? What is the underlying thought that's triggering that emotion? Like, why do you feel frustrated or angry or just like irked? Okay. Because there's a thought that's driving that. And that's what we get to work on. It's not even anything necessarily in the past, it's dealing with your thoughts and feelings today, right? So, figuring out what the thought is at making you feel a certain way is key. And then asking yourself, if I could choose how I wanted to feel in this situation, what would that be? How would I want to feel? What emotion would I want to experience right now? Right? What's an appropriate emotion for this situation. And sometimes, sure, anger might be the appropriate emotion. And again, it's learning to feel the emotion without making it mean something and without trying to minimize that discomfort, right?
Right.
And I believe that the discomfort comes from the thought. What are we making that anger mean, that frustration mean, that whatever mean, right? That's what's creating a discomfort because an emotion, a feeling is just a vibration in our body. We know that now, right? Like it's just a vibration in our body that we experience and it will pass, especially if we allow it to process, right? We'll feel it and then it'll dissipate and then it'll leave our body and then that's it. So, knowing that it's okay to feel the emotions we're experiencing is also super important, right? Again, it's creating and allowing that space for healing to unfold. If we're holding on to like deep seated anger, we're not allowing ourselves to process it. We need to process that in order to heal and move on, right? And we now know, if you've been listening to us long enough, that we store energy in our body. And this is when we get physical ailments. There was an episode we did actually towards the beginning. I think it was probably within the first dozen episodes, we did something around energy. And I think it was called like Energy is Everything and Everything is Energy, something like that. And it was about how we store unprocessed emotion in our body physically, creating discomfort and ailments that can bloom and blossom into so many, many things, right? Like, even if you're someone who has like pain in your hips, for example, shame is stored predominantly in our hips. So you can start to kind of gain some insight in the areas that are still wanting to be healed through your physical body and what it's trying to communicate.
Right, exactly. And with the energetic, so Shannon was talking about frequency. So when we hold on to those emotions, when we make them make so much meaning that we're holding on to them, that's a vibration that we're setting off. And we're going to draw in more. It's attracting more that has that same vibration. And so one of my things that I'm doing for my daily practice is somatic exercises. Why? To release some of the energy that Shanda's talking about that might be caught in my hips or my neck or my shoulders. There's a whole thing, because we hold on to these old things and we look in the past and so and so did this. Remember when they did that? And so it has to mean this because of 10 years ago they did this, that kind of stuff. And we're holding on to it and we haven't processed it. That's what she's talking about, looking in the past, is we're like, what if the version of me and the version of this person are not even close to what they were in the past, but I'm holding on to the version they were and the version I was, right? And that's that stored up energy and the pain and the elements and all of that's coming in because you're like, this is still the thing I'm replaying for years and years and years. And we're not even the same person anymore because life experience, healing, whatever, and we've moved forward, but I'm still holding on to the past. And that, what if I made some space to let go of that and for what else is possible, and heal
Mm.
everything that I'm holding on to in this relationship.
Yeah, I love the question of what else is possible, right? I'm always a big, big believer in like thinking big, right? Not thinking small. Like, okay, what if this isn't true? What else is possible? What else might be true, right? And just being curious, kind of opening your mind to that. Also, I always like to think of when we set out to create this type of space, right? This space to encourage and invite healing, we need to remember a few things. I'm going to give you like a little analogy here or paint a picture for you. So I always think of a sandbox. I don't know why I think of a sandbox or a beach. And if you maybe you were a kid like me who had like one of those little sifters where you would scoop up a bunch of sand or dirt and then you would sift and the sand and the dirt would the fine stuff would fall through and you'd be left with rocks or like garbage or sticks or whatever, right? And we can look at that, right? We can look at all of the things that are left in this sifter and we can look at it like, okay, this is just a bunch of debris, it's a bunch of rocks, it's a bunch of sticks. Or we can say, hey, what if amongst these things that are left in this sifter can be turned from rock into gold if I am willing to sit with them and explore them with curiosity and love, right? So oftentimes we see something, but at first glance, we don't see it as it actually is, right? So what I'm kind of pointing at here are like those gifts, right? Those lessons that are hidden beneath maybe the things that are ugly or the things that are painful or the things that are uncomfortable. So when we're creating this space, we're sifting, right? We're actually encouraging every time we take a scoop of sand, we're encouraging these things to come up to the surface. So let's not be surprised when they do. That happened to me, like I just said, right? I was like, oh, what's going on? And it took a minute to realize, wait a minute, I've been encouraging this whole time. This is beautiful because now it's coming, right? Now I'm at a place, I've arrived at a place where my body feels comfortable enough to start releasing those things to me to work on. So as we scoop the sand, we're going to find more opportunity to find rocks and twigs and debris, but also to find the gold, right? So flip all the things, look at all the things, investigate all the things, and just explore with curiosity and see what's there.
Right. And realize that we're the ones who make it good or bad. So if we're like, oh, I had a bad day because these things came up, that's us judging it, making it bad. So you allow it, even just like the good things when they come up out of nowhere, allow those things that feel uncomfortable to come up. And I use good, but the things that we're like excited about is what I'm meaning. Those things that come up that make us uncomfortable and be like, this is going to open up for even more of those things that I'm excited about because I'm willing to sift through everything, find the lessons in it because that means I'm going to grow and be open to so much more than I knew prior to doing this, right?
Yeah.
It's all a beautiful thing. And we're the ones that are labeling it good or
Mm,
bad. And to be like, okay, I didn't know this was going to come up. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to be like, okay, it's uncomfortable, but what is it about? What am I going to, what can I learn from this? What are the lessons? And just be like, this can be exciting if I let it be.
yeah. Yeah. And as you're doing this work too, one of the exercises that I started doing, because like I said, it was like in my dreams, things were coming up. As I was meditating, things were coming up. Throughout my day, things were coming up. So I was really like, it was all around. All of these beautiful things were being presented to me. So I started making a list. And as we compile our lists, so start writing things down, then once you have, several things on your list, you can start to look for similarities, right? So we're looking for those patterns. So this and this and this happened, and maybe this and this have the same underlying theme. Those are the roots that we can heal, right? So I mean, because what's happening is that like your brain is trying to get your attention, right? If it wants to get your attention for something, it's going to keep presenting the information, but in different ways. Remember this, how about this? What about this? What about this? And it's just collecting all of this information and being like, here's everything, right? And then maybe you have a similar theme and not the exact same one. Like, let's say there's shame and then there's like guilt and then like sadness or anger. Maybe you have those three buckets, right? So you might get a flood of all three of them, or one might kind of have a few of them, right? Or you might have separate individual moments or experiences that you're remembering, but start making a list. And then again, explore with compassion and curiosity and love. Like, what are the underlying themes here that I can see emerging that want to be healed? Because this is all beautiful information that we want to encourage because this is the actual work. And this is the uncomfortable part of doing this work, right? It's allowing these moments to come through, but welcoming them as opposed to trying to shut them down and not allow them to be shared, right?
Right. And that helps with when a lot is coming up, instead of overwhelmed, being like, okay, a lot is coming up, but I'm just going to do some listing out, not with no judgment, with no specific agenda, except for to let it all go out because at some point it's going to all make sense to me.
Mm.
And I'm going to be able to like, oh, here's that bucket of guilt that I didn't realize that's what all this stuff that came up
Yeah.
here's the, maybe it's the anger, resentment, and here's, the shame, all of those things that were like, those have made me so uncomfortable. So I act in a certain way to avoid those. So those are all sitting down there.
Yeah.
And what do they have in common? What's all the things going on in shame have in common? What does it feel like I'm protecting myself from when I'm going there? It's just, it really allows us this chance to take a look at where the patterns have come from and why we're like, I don't need this anymore.
Mm.
This is my lesson in it. And while I acted this way for a reason, as we talk about very often, your survival mode, that's what your subconscious mind's doing. It's trying to keep us safe. And that's why we bucket all these things and why we act in a certain way. And the non-judgment is like, remember that any pattern I find that is no longer useful to me got me to where I'm at today for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you recognize these roots and you come to that aha moment of being like, okay, it may not be desirable, right? These experiences up until now, but like Carla said, they've gotten me here. So what we can then do is send out love and gratitude to all of those coping strategies, right? And then we can transmute it or heal it by rewriting the story we're telling ourselves about those things, right? We want to rewrite them from being something that is like disempowering or negative into something that is empowering and positive, right? So how can you rewrite your that story to work for you, to feed
Right.
into you as opposed to taking away from you? Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And because many times these things that we're going to list really did the coping mechanism, we disempowered ourselves when we use them. So like Shanda said, empowering yourself to move forward, to
Mm.
heal from this and be like, okay, this is a part of me. There's no shame, no blame, no whatever. There was a reason for it. And now I'm stepping forward through this. You have helped me get here and I'm moving forward. And thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. So I want to say, create the space for healing to unfold. Don't be surprised when things come up. Offer love and gratitude when they do come up, and then change the story you're telling yourself about those things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anything else you want to share around this topic,
No,
Shanda?
I feel like this feels really good. I feel like there's some actionable pieces that people can take away and start doing, compiling those lists, taking the actions we just shared, right? Offering the love and the gratitude and then rewriting the story. So I feel like there's quite a bit in here. And I would encourage everybody to go back and re-listen and maybe even take notes on what some of those action steps are. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And if there is anybody you think would benefit from this video or any of our videos, because we have many now, please share.
Mm.
And if you haven't subscribed, remember to hit the subscribe button because we come out with new content every week and we're always excited to share our knowledge, heart, and just experience of who we are with you so that you can create the life that you want. So remember, from head to heart and home, and we will see you next week. Bye bye for now.